Hi, everybody. Welcome to Conversations with Calvin, We the Species. I always do my chronological. We're a week into the new year, 2023. And I'm with Mia Smithson. And Mia and I met on LinkedIn. I think it was LinkedIn or whatever. But important, there was something that grabbed me that I saw, and that's what we're going to be talking about. She's the CEO founder of the 30K program, and it empowers women to get higher paying jobs through all kinds of techniques, negotiate. We'll talk about all that, and that's really the subject of this interview. And the commonality factor why I was kind of magnetized when I saw what she does in her work, also in the corporate world. But the 30K program, especially since I'm on the advisory committee of the Women's Health Institute at Rutgers Robert Wood Johnson Medical School, as I just said to Mia, this really it's not a medical thing, but it really pertains to women's health, having this power for improving one's lot in life and the whole pay structure. So that's what drew me to this, and why I thought it was really critically essential, and it just fits the stuff that I do and the work that the Women's Health Institute does to promote and teach and empower, which is what you do. And of course, in the scheme of things, you're in San Francisco, which is great. Still the afternoon in San Francisco. It's nighttime here. But the other factor of commonality, and we'll talk about it later at the end of our interview, is our affectation with cauliflower rice. So that's the essence of my monologue and how I believe this is so important. By the way, it's important for everybody. This is not a gender thing. Everybody can learn from Mia to raise their place in life, et cetera, et cetera. So without further ado, I introduce Mia Smithson and take it away, a little bio, and then we'll kind of jump into some things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Calvin. Yeah, so my background, I have 7 years of talent acquisition and management experience. So I've interviewed a little over 5,000 people for a number of the tech brands that you've probably heard of. So I worked for a staffing firm, and we had clients like Google and Disney and like a whole bunch of amazing tech brands. And so I started off and I was hiring for tech, and I've since grown my career to global director of talent management, overseeing about 400 employees in the US and Mexico. What I've noticed throughout my career is that a man and a woman will be interviewing for the same role, and they'll have comparable experience. And the man will ask for, say, 120K, and the woman will ask for 100K. And then immediately she'll pull back that number. She'll say, I'd be okay with going lower. Right. And it's this immediate degradation of her business worth. And I've heard this literally hundreds of times.
Wow.
And so that's kind of where the start of the 30K program began. And I will say that personally, I found out that I was underpaid by $30,000. And it was, literally right after I found out that, I started the program about a week later. So I've been directly impacted by gender pay inequality. I know tons of other women who have as well. And so that's the problem that the 30K program solves.
Okay. While I'm listening to you, we spent time beforehand. A thing popped into my head, and when Judge Ginsburg passed away, Supreme Court Justice Ginsburg.
Yeah.
I watched documentary after documentary and movies. I tried to absorb as much as I could about her and her work, but there was one of her famous cases which she took to the Supreme Court was an army officer. I guess it was the U.S. Army, but she wasn't getting the same benefits as a male, and so she took it to the Supreme. She eventually got a hold of Judge Ginsburg, who was not on the Supreme Court. She was a trial lawyer. She was a lawyer, and she took that case on. It was Frontieri, actually. That's the name of the soldier. But anyway, the point being, the issues that you're trying to combat is contemporary stuff. Still goes on, and that's why the 30K program is so valuable. And I mentioned to you also, Barbara Walters spent a lifetime trying for the equality of pay and of job. So these things are so important. Anyway, before we really jump in, just a quick little, what also kind of thrilled me is you actually taught in Thailand. And I thought that was kind of great. Do a couple of comments on that, just teaching in Thailand?
Yeah, so I did that right after college, and I knew I was like, I want to really grow my career and do something really impactful. And I was like, but before I really like architect a career, I want to spend a year living on an island teaching small Thai children English.
Wow.
So yeah, I got a job at an immersion academy in Thailand. I got visa sponsorship, and I lived the life of an islander. And it was absolutely amazing. So I would recommend that to anybody, especially like new grads, especially. I think it's just such an optimal period of your life to do something like that. And I'm really grateful that I did it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. When I was coming through the President Kennedy started the Peace Corps, and I was so tempted. I have regrets that I never did something like that, but it's kind of like what you did. Anyway, moving on, let's kind of really jump into the 30K program. So can you give a quick overview and then we'll kind of dissect?
Yeah, so it started off, I was doing general life and career coaching. And I noticed that all of my clients were getting the same results. What I mean by that is that I was helping them get higher paying jobs, and like the average pay increase was an extra 30K within 12 months. And I was like, hold up, this needs to be a program. And so I created a program, and I basically focused in where now the only way that I help women is by helping them get a higher paying job within 12 months. So we help them effectively package their skills and strategically negotiate with confidence.
Wow.
And then through that, they get that pay increase. And one thing to note is that pay increase is for 1 year. The average American works for 43 years. 30K times 43 is what? 1.29 million. So if a woman finds us early on in her career and she does our program, that's a $1.2 million of an increase over her career span, which is really immense. And so that's the thing that like gets me up in the morning, just helping women to negotiate and to, get that higher paid job. And I think it's fascinating because like you notice effects outside of just the woman's career, right? She's showing up more confidently in her marriage and maybe with her kids, and she's able to just show up to life in a more like present manner because she believes she can. So I think that there's a lot of kind of like self-worth that can get tied into how much money somebody makes. And so that is like one of the things that we really do focus on within the 30K program is actually delineating what
Mhm.
somebody's personal worth is, and making sure that they understand that that's different than their business worth, right? Like, I believe that I'm 100% worthy as a human being. I think you are as well. And I don't think I can become more worthy than you are to like be alive. But at the same time, I do recognize that our skill sets get paid differently depending on the market and also depending on how we negotiate. And so that's one of the key things as well with the program, is that we really do help the women to be confident in themselves and to stop tying their self-worth with the amount of money that they
Mhm.
earn.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I keep saying wow. It is a wow because it's so prevalent. It-
Yeah.
It's so prevalent, the inequities, and as much as we think we're educated and we're on top of things, we got a long way to go. I used to write about the Cro-Magnon caveman, and when things started to change, thousands of years ago, um, the caveman, because he was bigger and stronger, made a woman walk 6 steps behind him, and that's when problems. I've oversimplified it quite a bit, but that's when problems began. So, which really means that we've had these problems with us, these societal problems, these inequities. We've had these problems with us a long, long time. So it's kind of refreshing.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I would say like gender pay inequality is a global issue. It's not just in the United States. But one thing that's fascinating to note is that, so in Iceland, on October 24th of 1975, roughly 90% of Icelandic women refused to cook or clean or
Wow.
look after their kids, and they demanded more.
Wow.
And because of that, Iceland is a leader for pay for women. They're
Wow.
one of the few countries who it's like an inherent part of their process to have gender pay equality. And so it's interesting because if we demanded more, we would get more. And I see this also just within negotiating, right? Like, I literally led 5,000 negotiations, and I cannot tell you, even it's hundreds of women who they don't even ask. They don't even ask for more. They don't ever push back. And it's this like, it's almost like we're taught as women to like be like subservient, like, oh, you don't want to be like greedy and ask for too much. And it turns into this like super dramatic, like emotional thing. And if we actually just kind of view the situation like holistically and kind of take the action that we deem important, like we truly can achieve immense results, which is as shown by our women in Iceland.
Wow. By the way, that's completely buried. That factoid is completely buried. I never heard that before. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
that they were so progressive back then to have done that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the start. They have what's called like an equal pay bill
Okay.
in Iceland. So,
So in the 30K program, just to go back a little bit, you teach about negotiation. Can you comment on negotiation?
I definitely can. So I think what could be helpful for your audience is to go through some of the tactics that I think are the most valuable to utilize. Um, so the first is spilling the candy, and this is actually a what not to do. And this is where, you know, a hiring manager is interviewing an applicant, and the applicant's like, oh, I'm making X, Y, and Z, and I'm okay with staying at the same rate. And they'll literally spill the candy and they'll say what range they're currently making. Federally, it's illegal for a hiring manager or a recruiter to ask what the person's currently making. You do not ever have to let a person know.
Mm-hmm.
And what I always recommend doing is holding that close to the vest. So negotiation is truly a game of poker. And if you show the other side your cards, you're probably not going to do super well. My sister, she is a senior technical recruiter, and she is brilliant at negotiating. And for a role that she recently, or fairly recently got, there was her previous position, she knew that she was underpaid, right? And she was negotiating for this new company. And she didn't really know the full pay range, right? And she looked at Glassdoor, and then she looked at like ladders, and she looked at a few different sources, but she saw kind of different ranges. And so what she did, which was super smart, was when she interviewed for the role, the recruiter asked her, what salary range are you targeting? And she didn't say. She instead did something in recruiting technique called reversing, which is where she reframed it, and she asked that recruiter, and she goes, oh, I'm curious, like, what is the salary range for the role? And the recruiter, the range that this person ended up letting her know was like, it was like 40K higher than my sister had been targeting. And my sister's response was like, well, I think, that's a great starting point and enough to continue the conversation. My sister was like very coy in her response. She was like, it's great ground, and her eyes in the back, like she was thinking like, this is like, wow, this is much higher than I was expecting. So, yeah, so I always recommend for candidates to not tell the person you're interviewing with the salary range you're currently, or the salary you're currently making. And then B, do what's called that reversal, where you are reversing back and you're finding out that salary range. I will say right now, there are 8 states that are required to disclose salary bands on job descriptions. So some of this information is out there. If you are in one of the states that they're not required to disclose it, I still recommend that you ask, because a lot of those companies will still tell you if you ask, but you just need to ask.
Okay.
Right?
You just need to ask. As simple as that. Boom. Just need to ask. So you just talked about a reversal. In your world of the 30K program, there's something called a double reversal.
Yeah.
What is that?
Yeah. So this is where, let's say that I'm interviewing you for a role, right? And so I say, Calvin, what's the range that you're targeting? And you reverse back and you say, yeah, Maria, I'm curious, before I answer that question, can you let me know what that salary range is, right? So you ask me that, I respond back and I say, oh, the hiring manager is still determining the exact range, so I don't have that information at this time. What's the salary range that you're targeting, right? So I throw the ball back to you, and then the double reversal is where you come back and you say, I totally understand. It is really important for me to have all the criteria at the beginning when I'm evaluating, job opportunities. Could you have that conversation with the hiring manager and let me know that range once you do know, right? And I will tell you what, like 90% of the time, at least that I've seen, the recruiter will respond back and will let you know what that salary range is. But here's the thing. I think the reason why women don't negotiate is twofold. I think first, it's a lack of a skill set of negotiation. Like they don't really know what to do, and they are lacking the training. But I would say the second thing is that effective negotiation requires courage. And courage feels crappy. I'm going to be honest with you. You are putting yourself out there. Someone could reject you. Someone could say, like, no, like there is a level of risk involved. And so I think it's important to bring up, because if you think that this is going to be butterflies and daisies, you have another thing coming. If you want to be earning more money, then you need to, I think, develop a positive relationship with discomfort. One of my favorite quotes is, discomfort is the currency of your dreams. And so I think when you start to befriend it, everything starts to change. One of the things that we do in the program is we have what's called the 100 rejections jar. And we encourage the women in our program to put in a coffee bean in a mason jar every time that they get rejected. They applied to a job and they didn't actually move forward in the process. It's positively reinforcing rejection because it allows you to take risks and recognize that you're not going to die, that you will be okay, and that you will be stronger.
I'm taking notes. No, I'm actually taking notes.
Okay.
No, well, I am. Well, I have the luxury of to go back and to listen, and actually, I'll take notes when I re-listen to. This is great stuff. I mean, really great stuff. You know, I came out of the corporate world a little bit at Luxottica, big eyewear company, and I was a regional manager, and I could have used, even in my world, I could have used what you're giving in the 30K program, because it's universal. It's, you know, this is fabulous. It's fabulous. I'm loving this. I'm just telling you. You know, I love the double reversal coming right back. Boom, boom, boom. It's and I mean, that's a key part of 30K program. I mean,
Yeah.
to really to be, I mean, even learning the art of negotiation builds confidence. And builds confidence that you've come out of this, and that's so much value in and of itself, which helps the overall. There's
Yeah.
another term. Well, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, so one of the things, in order to like schedule call the 30K program, there's like an area where you can add in notes of like what you're struggling with. And so I love data and I love trends. And so I've like picked up like the trends of the women who sign up for the 30K program. They use words like, I feel stuck right now. I feel like an imposter. I just don't feel confident enough. And what's really funny is like when you hear that, you're like, who are these people? You know, maybe they're an individual contributor with 2 years of experience. But in actuality, 80% of the women who sign up for our program are already making six figures when they sign up, which is really fascinating. So these same women who are killing it, they're doing amazing, are like, oh my gosh, I have this imposter syndrome. I'm doing horrible. I am not confident. I literally will have people who are currently, you know, C-level sign up and still have these same feelings of being an imposter and not feeling confident. So I think it's just really important to note that like these are like feelings that actually happen like at all levels. And also, we are open if someone wants to join our program and they're not already at six figures, just for some reason, we seem to attract a caliber of woman that is already at six figures. So,
But you know what, 30K program, I would think it the ladder is a big ladder, but that ladder, even at the first couple of rungs. By the way, I taught career explorations at Rutgers, and I'm teaching young people. And my mind is working listening to you that this would be really a helpful course for young people, young women coming out of a college. Really, because by the way, this stuff obviously is not taught in college. You know, it's not to the depth. So this would be really good. I'm asking you for young people just coming out to begin, even giving them the confidence. Correct?
yeah, 100%. I mean, just think about it this way, right? If someone graduates at the age of 22, they get a job and they don't negotiate for their first job, which roughly 50% of Americans don't negotiate in their first job, right? That woman, let's just say that she joins the 30K program at age 30, would have lost out on 8 years of higher earnings, right? And if you do 30K times 8, I mean, like what, 240,000. So, and that's not even taking into account like pay increases are typically a percentage of your current salary. So I know a lot of companies have pay increases, like yearly pay increases of 3 to 5%. So if you are at a lower starting point, your pay increase every year would be lower, right? And so it's just the cumulative effect of like what you're losing out on is really, really significant. And so, yeah, there's a cost if you don't know this.
Okay, so as somebody who mentors, I'm involved in the mentoring program at Rutgers as well.
Yeah,
This becomes so utilitarian,
yeah,
really. So that this becomes part of my tools to pass along for young people to explore, young women to explore. This has been very educational for me, note taking and all. This is good stuff. Another word I pulled out is anchoring.
yeah.
You can talk about that.
So anchoring is really fascinating because so first, a general rule of negotiation is the person who says the number first loses. So
Is that
ideally,
right? The number who
the person who says the number first loses, right?
right.
Because what are they doing? They're telling you their cards, they're spilling their candy, they are, you know, showing you what they're thinking. And in negotiation, information is power. So if you can find out that range ahead of time, you're setting yourself up for success. Here's the thing, anchoring comes into play when, let's say, you do the double reversal and the hiring manager says, you know, we don't disclose it to any candidates. I do still need to say a range, which is really pretty rare. It's only in about 10%, at least what I've seen. I recommend anchoring. So start like having a range that's maybe a little bit higher, right? And then discussing and kind of going from there. And you could even anchor in a signing bonus. So most manager and above roles there's typically negotiation like room for a signing bonus, and the signing bonus is anywhere from like, you know, $5,000 to it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. But what I see typically for like a manager and above is typically anywhere from like 5,000 to 15,000 is extremely common. So even within a signing bonus, you could anchor and you could say, you know, I'm targeting, I don't know, like 155 to 165K plus a $15,000 signing bonus or something like that, right? And then if they come back for the signing bonus, they're like, actually, we're only able to do 10K. You've kind of started them at a higher point, you know, versus if you start them at a 10K and then they come back down to a 5K, we're already at like a lower starting point. So I always just recommend anchoring a little bit higher.
Okay.
Is just really valuable.
Okay. I'm going to give you the ultimate praise. I'm a student of Franklin Delano Roosevelt. I read and absorb, and all my takeaways from the Ken Burns documentary, The Intimate History of the Roosevelts. Watch where I'm going with this. And John Meacham, who's this amazing historian, the greatness of Franklin Roosevelt, the greatness and how he accomplished. Listen, he got us in. He was a politician, but his mastery is he let the other person, whether he's negotiating with Stalin, or he's negotiating with a union, or he's negotiating with Republicans, no matter on the world stage, he let everybody else make the first move, just like what you're saying, the first numbers. Yeah. So and as soon as you were saying that, I said, oh wow, because he was the greatest politician who ever lived, because he got anybody who's ever negotiating with, he got them to make the first, and it allowed him to. So what you said Mia is like, oh, wow. I had to tell you that because it's really relevant. I'm just, anyway, I just want to go off topic a second. I forewarned you before we went on air. I always like to ask this one question, and I got it not I got it from one of my favorite people on earth, Barbara Walters, who inspires me, always inspires me. But here goes, and you don't even have to answer it, but it's a nice question. So here goes. Excluding family or friends, somebody living or dead you'd like to spend a day with.
Ooh,
It is an O.
that's a great question.
It is. She was a great woman.
Yeah, I would say I think Jesus would be pretty interesting. We would probably have a pretty great conversation. So I'm gonna go for that.
That's and by the way, I would be right kind of up there with you. That's a whole long story, a very long story, but it's a great great answer. All right, moving along. I guess this is an acronym, but again, these are things I pulled out of
Yeah.
BATNA, BATNA.
Yeah. So BATNA, it stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. So what that means is that you need options. Options are power. So if you're going into a negotiation, you need to have your backup option and your backup option for your backup option, and not just having options, but having options as desirable to you as, you know, that kind of main option that you are targeting. So I have never accepted a position without having multiple offers, and I've been able to leverage those offers where I'm like, well, you know, this role, I'm totally aligned with the mission and the values of this company. At the same time, I do have an offer with a consulting firm, and it's 10% higher. You know, is there wiggle room in the range that we had previously discussed? And one key here is that saying a percentage increase is hugely valuable, because most people are not going to be automatically thinking, oh, wait, what's that percentage of what that percentage? And I've seen hiring managers agree to a certain extra pay increase of a certain percentage. And then when they actually do the math, they're like, wait, that's actually a larger amount than I thought. And so that is also a way to have your request seem smaller, just because you're framing it and asking for a percentage as opposed to like a dollar rate, which is kind of fun.
Okay. Part of the program is something called unique concepts. Is that part of what the program delivers, unique concepts?
So we have, I would say, a lot of different kind of unique concepts within it. One of them is calm people make the most money. So one of the biggest trends that I've noticed in the people I negotiate is the people who earn the most are always extremely calm when having the conversation.
This is great.
Women who are, it's a difference of energy, and recruiters are trained to pick it up. And so when someone has an energy of scarcity and it's this grasping energy, they rush to say a number. They don't allow pauses. They don't allow silence, and silence is needed. In a proper negotiation, you should feel comfortable saying what you're looking for, letting a pause, waiting for the other person, right? And obviously only say it after you've done a, reversal and a double reversal. Please don't spill the candy. But having that pause is just really, really beautiful, and being very calm and very like level-headed. And Yeah, so it's so fascinating to me because you wouldn't think that like knowing how to manage your mind and your emotions is like it's truly one of the most important facets of this program.
Okay. Wow. Um, I also wrote it down. I couldn't resist. Calm people make the most money. It's so this is great stuff. It really is. I love this stuff because I took 50 courses over my 25 years at Luxottica, 50 courses, and every once in a while a course would come along and and the light bulbs would go off and I said, oh wow, this is because the knee-jerk reaction when people are listening to this, the knee-jerk reaction, oh, I don't need that, I don't, but they do, and if they open up, they do, and there's some gold here, and your words of wisdom, and I mean everything I'm hearing, I mean it's just great stuff from somebody who's done 50 courses in improving the soul and the mind. This is really great stuff. And the more I'm listening, it's like, wow. And my mind is running now on who I can share this with, because this can help so many women and beyond. Okay. The last heavy question to ask you, I like this. I like this. What do people forget most to negotiate for?
Ooh, that's a really great question. So I would say it does depend on the person and their skill level. So if it is manager and above, if you're interviewing for a manager above role and you're not asking for a signing bonus, then that is like the great place to start because that is so typical and it's really easy to implement, right? And the way to have that conversation is a signing bonus is something that's given one time at the beginning of when someone starts a role. So the benefit of the employer is that they don't have to pay this every single year. And the benefit of the applicant is that they get like whatever, $10,000 when they start a position. It's really easy to throw in there and negotiate for. So I always recommend manager above, do the signing bonus. Another thing that I think is super interesting is negotiating your title. A lot of people think that the title on the job description is the only title that's available. If you, let's just say you have experience as a director and there's a role posted that's a senior manager, and you're like, look, I would bring the value of a director, have that conversation. I know a lot of times in hiring, a recruiter will post a job that is like one or two levels lower, and then they'll see who applies. And if someone exceptional applies who's a little bit, more experienced, they will consider them for a higher level role, right? But sometimes the recruiter doesn't have enough like skill level to actually ask and to make that happen for that person to have the higher level role. And so I think it's just important to be assertive, and if you think that your skills warrant that other title, to ask for it. So yeah, I mean, there's so many different things that you
Yeah.
can negotiate for, but those I would say are just like the things that are so easy to like
Yes.
they're sitting right there. Like, why not?
More notes I took. I love when I say my head is swimming, and you've made me swim. Well, because it's so practical what you've done here. This is, it's like an old TV program. This is your life, way before your time, and this is your life. And those that take this and run with it, it's a better life. So the heaviness is, and the seriousness, and the utility and the practicality we've covered. And I do have a burning question to ask, because we've discovered that commonality that we share, our love of cauliflower rice. And you've been you've been a cauliflower rice person for a long time, correct?
Yeah, so it started, I want to live until I'm 100, so I'm an aspiring centenarian, and there was a longitudinal study, so essentially a study that was done over a long time horizon that showed a correlation between 10 ounces of vegetables and an increase in like longevity. And so when I found that out, I was like, I need to increase my vegetable intake. And so I like tried all these different vegetables, and I'm not gonna lie, broccoli slaw came close. Like it was pretty good. But the creme de la creme of the vegetable kingdom, in my opinion, is cauliflower rice. I mean, literally, I sometimes even make like cauliflower rice, and if you add, you can even make a sweet version, kind of like rice pudding, but you can make it with cauliflower rice. It's just like cauliflower rice is like a blank canvas, and you can make it whatever masterpiece you want.
Okay. I had it last night. I told you. My wife made it last night. Love it, love it, love it. You know, the longevity thing that you said, I think I mentioned to you, I haven't eaten anything with 4 legs since 1975. I don't know if did I tell you that? No. Well, I made a commitment in 1975, and I loved hamburgers and steak. But it was a commitment as a humanitarian, as an environmentalist, because I've been since 1970, first Earth Day, and health issues. So all these things, it was the proper alignment of the earth and the moon and the stars hit me one day, and I said, I'm done. And it was a spiritual thing, and so I haven't eaten anything with 4 legs, which means a lot of my diet has been vegetables. And the jury and the verdict is out, but as I'm 3 years away from my 8th decade on this earth, I'm sharper today because of the experience factor, that all that experience stuff. But anyway, I'm sharper today than I've ever been, and I believe that. I just finished my second novel, and I attribute a lot of that to not necessarily cauliflower or broccoli, but I attribute that to vegetables. So it's an argument that won't get solved right away. Also, you love salsa dancing, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So I did salsa dancing all throughout college, almost every single weekend. And salsa is really, really fun because it's like instant community. You can go to any city in the entire world. Like if I wanted to like go to Spain this weekend, I could go and there would be people who know salsa that you can dance with, right? And so it's like an instant way to like build rapport and get to know people in a new city. And I think it's also like it's great exercise, and you feel the music, you feel the emotions of the music, and you also get to be really, really creative. So my background, I did gymnastics for 10 years. And so I know how to do a whole bunch of the flips. And so I typically will do like salsa with, and when I do it with a partner, I'll literally do salsa and then add in some like East or West Coast like swing into it. So you do that in flips.
Oh, cool.
And then it turns into like a whole like amazing thing. And like we've taken over the dance floor before, where all the dancers, they like dim the light, and you'll do like a back tap, like you'll literally like roll off like the back of someone and flip over, and then immediately jump back into salsa. It's the fusion of dances that you can get into is amazing.
Cool. Finally, Mia, life in San Francisco. You love it?
Yeah, I mean, San Francisco is a place where people come and make their dreams a reality. They do not try or want or hope. Instead, they use words like will and create, and they make it happen, right? And so I think it's really inspiring to be in a place where so many people take what's impossible, or what people think of as impossible, and make it possible. So yeah, I really, really love it. It's amazing.
Okay. I spent 4 days there with my niece. I don't know, 10 years ago. First time in San Francisco. I loved it. I didn't necessarily love the parking. because we had to rent a car, but nevertheless, it was an amazing 4 days. So we've done our thing. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to have done this and having met you and listened to you. And I'm on your team. This needs to be promoted and shared, and people need to jump on this because it's life. This is your life. And that's one of my little catchphrases I'm going to use. So I thank you for your time, your passion, your energy, for this program, which has so much utility. I'm inviting you back formally, come back, panels, anything. This needs to be shared, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Calvin.
Thank you. So don't leave. I'm just going to stop recording. We'll do a little wrap, but thank you. And in the words of Clint Eastwood, by the way, from San Francisco, you know, when he did those Dirty Harry movies, one of his catchphrases was, well, kind of, you made my day, and you have made my day. So thank you.